You know, I've had some people ask me why I make my own necks, and well, so I can kind of customize them how I want them to be. For example, these are two necks that I bought from a place up in New Hampshire. I can't think of the name of the place. Something Giddy, GDB Giddy or GB Giddy or something like that. But this neck here is not. This is a shorter neck. I think these are 24-inch necks. These are a little bit shorter, and they're kind of pricey. This is like 40 bucks or 45 bucks. You know, completely finished, has all the frets in it, and it's ready to go. But you got to drill a hole for to attach it. But this one I bought because I'm gonna make that Bigfoot guitar. This one is like 75 bucks. So just this, I mean, these are pricey. They're not cheap. This is spruce. This is not oak. They make these in the factory up there at Giddy. And see, he has two on this side. He has a reverse like mine. But these are not cheap. And these really are kind of a nuisance to work with for what I like to use them for. People like to build cigar box guitars, like using these kind of cigar boxes or whatever. I've made one. They're such a pain. They're no, and you have to use this pretty much a neck like this to go through. And I just don't like it. It's just a lot of work. You end up having to cut this box out, and you got to set the neck in like this. Then it's just every time you want to work on it, you got to open the box up. It's just such a hassle to me. And I could make this. In fact, I have made a neck like this a lot cheaper than this one cost me. This one is just rough. You have to trim it down, everything else, and I just don't. That's just too much money. I can make my own for less than half the price. So I don't like to make. I love cigar box guitars because they're so cool, but they're such a hassle to work with. You can't change it. It's just how it is. And you end up having to cut big slots out the sides, and yeah, they're kind of cool looking. You know, they got all sorts. I got a whole stack of cigar boxes back there. I'll probably end up just giving them away, but they're just so hard to work with. Yeah, they look cool, but a lot of limitations. That's my personal opinion. Other guys who are on here that make these cigar box guitars, they'll tell you that it's just the opposite. They're easy to work with and they're fun. Yeah, but those guys charge a lot more than I do for my guitars. I want to I just want to get a product that I can get that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, and that way I can sell them more readily for at a cheaper price, and they still work fine. I can customize them as much as they want, but I want them to work. I want them to last. Yeah, CB Giddy is where I got this neck. CB Giddy, he's up in New Hampshire, I think. Like I said, I'm not advertising for any of these people. I'm just showing you where I got some of my parts. I get 100% of my part, 99% from MGB out of Odessa. Then I get some stuff out of CB Giddy up in New Hampshire. Either place is going to work fine. I find both these people are reputable. They ship fast, and if you have a problem, they stick behind their stuff. So that's why I use those guys. But I don't know if I'll ever make another cigar box. I just don't. They're just such a hassle. I've made one out of a jewel box, and it was such a mess. I kind of put it on the back shelf. So I'm going to just keep on going with what I'm working on here. I'm going to make my Bigfoot guitar next. I'll probably end up making my own neck to use on it, so I can customize the length, because my foot on mine is going to be pretty big. So it's going to be here's the size of the foot. This is going to be the body of the guitar. See, that won't even reach to the end. So I'll end up customizing my own neck. What I'll end up doing is probably using a whole length of this. See that? This board's only like $4 or $5, and I can make it do what I want. So I'll show you guys this project later on. But I just want to kind of give you an idea of why I make my own necks versus buying them. This one's too short. It's going to sound like a ukulele, This one is almost 80 bucks now, and I just don't want to pay that much for them. People who buy these don't want to spend a fortune. So I'm just trying to keep the cost down while maintaining some quality on my part, so I can say I made the whole thing. Yeah, I buy these fretboards, but they're like 15 bucks. They're already pre-made. They work fine. They're well sanded down. They just finished nicely. They work. So these, I'll put these back on my back shelf. Now, I may use them on another project. That make a good little cigar box. I'll probably end up using that for one of these. Okay, well, that's enough of my rambling now. Thanks, appreciate it. Leave any comments or questions if you guys need some help. And I may end up giving away one of these Washboard guitars. I actually made an extra one, and it was kind of a test one, so I actually will probably be giving one away. And this is an extra one I made. I don't have a buyer for it. It has a spruce neck on it, but this is kind of a test platform I was using to see about the strings and these bolts, things like that. I was trying to figure out what I could do to change it. So I'll probably end up giving one of these away. This one exactly here, I'll be giving this away at some point in time. So let me know if you guys have any questions or have anything else you want me to cover. Thanks a lot. I had a couple people ask me how I build my necks for my washboard guitars, and I thought, well, I better make a video and maybe show you guys how I do that. I buy these pre-made necks. These are about 15 bucks from MGB down in Tampa or Odessa, Florida. Like I say, I'm not a commercial for the guy. I just like the guy. He ships quick. His prices are fair, and these are easier than buying regular necks and having to do all the frets, things like that. So I'm just trying to make it easy on myself. If I can save some time and money on the workout of these, it's going to be easier for me. So I start out getting these from there. I go down to Home Depot and I buy a couple of different boards. These are oak. They have spruce and oak, and they may have maple. I don't know. But I buy two pieces. They're 2.5 by 1.5 by 36. So these are a 1/4 inch. They're about 2 inches wide, and this one's 1/2 inch wide. About 2 inches here. And what I do is I measure the neck. I mount it to this one first. Pretty much what I do is I line up the frets so I can have some overhang on the bottom like that. And I'll take a nut and I'll put the nut up here and I'll mark the board where it needs to be cut like that. So it's pretty easy. And after I cut it, I have one already set up. So this one's already cut. See, it fits this. Has enough for the nut up the top right there. And it sets down here, so I got a little overlap. I like to overlap these fretboards over the end of my washboards. I just think to me it's a better look. It's easier to build that way, and you can straighten it up easier. So what I do is I just these are already sanded. I sanded these down on the edges so you don't have any rough edges. So what I do is I'll glue them next. I take them over to my flat table over here and glue them. I keep this for later. This is the bottom of the neck, so this will actually go like after I glue it. Those will be stuck. I'll put it on here like that. But then I'll cut it first before I glue it. I'll have to figure out where the neck goes, and the neck will be something like that. So what I do is I let these sit overnight. Excuse me. I let these sit overnight. I clamp them. I'll put a bar over here and I'll let them sit overnight. That usually helps out. So I'll show you how I clamp them up. Let me go over here and set it up. I don't want to waste my time with all the cuts and all the clamps, things like that. I'll show you the end result. I've had a few people ask me what I use to glue. I just use this Tight Bond wood glue. It seems to work okay. You got to be careful. You got to kind of use it sparingly, otherwise it oozes out between the gap here. Then you have to wipe it down. Then when you go to stain it, it leaves a streak where your glue is. So you need to be careful to remove all the glue after you glued it. And I'll usually only put a little line of glue down here to start with, and it usually holds pretty good. I've tried other glues, but this one seems to work okay. I've tried to use Gorilla Glue, and it doesn't hold. It doesn't go down into the fibers of the wood, and this works better. I was real careful to sand or to wipe it down once again because I see some glue still oozing out, but that's pretty much how it works. And like I said, there's 1,000 different ways you could build these. This is just one that I use. It seems to work okay for me. I've gone through several iterations on this, but I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm trying to keep it easy, fast. The biggest time consumer on these projects, on these washboard guitars, is waiting for the glue to dry. Every little piece I glue on there, I got to wait overnight, so it takes me a while to build one, just because I got to wait on the glue to dry. That's why I usually have several in progress right now. A buddy of mine wants one for a wall hanger, so I got his working over there, and I'll show it to you when I pull it out of the clamps. But here's anyway, I'll once I get ready to set the other neck, the other piece of wood on here, I'll show you how I do that. It's kind of the same way. I just cut it to size. I just cut this board to size, and I leave enough for the tuners up here. I'll leave enough for the tuners. Then I'll glue it the same way. I'll put it on the clamps, so it's kind of boring. Okay. Now here's my messy. Another work table I got. But what I've done, I've just taken a level and pretty much put it on top of the board and the fretboard and just compressed them together. You see, there's glue oozing out right there. So no matter how careful you are, you're always going to get some like that. So I just like to wipe it off. Just wipe it off like that. And what I do is later on, before I finish this up, I'll sand these edges to make sure all that glue is off that I can get off. And but that's pretty much, and the nut goes up here. So I left a space for that. And it's just pretty simple. You just got to be real careful and don't get in a hurry, because these things can get out of hand real quick. And I usually have all the same grips here, but I'm working on a bunch of projects right now, so I'm kind of getting short on these clamps. So that's pretty much what it looks like. You see, there's a bunch of other ones I got ready to build here. I got to get those going. And well, I had on the last video, I told you how I glued the wood onto the fretboard. Now I got to make another setup here. What I did, again, I went to Home Depot, bought these 2x2 oak. So what I got to do now is I'll end up trimming off a bunch of this. So I'll just take the fretboard that's already attached to this 1/4 inch by 2 inch oak, and I'll pretty much just glue it down here to this bottom part like that. But I'll have a whole bunch of extras. So what I'll do is I'll end up measuring probably about 5 inches up here for the tuners. I'll end up trimming this piece off. What I do is the piece I trim off, I'll use that to make the heel on my neck. Forgot to grab this. So what I gotta do is I gotta build this too. So this is a finished neck without the tuners on it. And here's the piece, here's the fretboard, the 1/4 inch piece, and the 1/2 inch piece of oak. But I also have to make this so I can put in my anchor bolt to attach to the body of the washboard. So what I'll do is I'll cut about 5 inches off here, and I'll go back and cut 2.5 inch pieces of this, and I'll glue them together and make this as part of the heel that I do. And these have to be sanded down to make a contour like this. So what I do, I'll end up taking this, make it look like this, and I'll glue it to the bottom of the neck. So that'll be the almost complete part of the neck now. So that's what I end up doing. And just a hint, don't finish your pieces of wood until after you have them all attached. The grain on this wood needs to be open so the wood glue or the adhesive can stick to it. And if you put on polyurethane or stain the polyurethane on top of this, it'll seal the wood so you can't, the adhesive won't be able to penetrate through it. So this one's pretty tight. So what I'll do is, this is what I'm going to try and end up with after I have all this. So what I've done, I went ahead and cut the bottom piece. This is going to be the bottom piece of the neck. And I'll have to, once I attach it to this, after it dries, I'll have to sand this neck to take these sharp edges off. And I actually have a belt sander over there that I do that with. I got to be real careful because those belt sanders are very aggressive, and I don't want to whittle away all this wood. So I'll do a slight smoothing part on that. And so then after I get that glued, it'll set. I'll take, after this is all trimmed up, I'll just adhere to this. And of course this will be all trimmed down. I'll put it on there, then I'll glue this to this. Then I'll stain it. But what I want to do is also, what I like to do is I like to take the end of this, round it off just to make it a little bit more contoured. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just, I've had both situations where people want it kind of rustic looking. Others want it a little bit more contoured, so that's what I do. Now I leave about 5 inches up here, so if you make a mistake on the contour, you can always go back and you're not drifting down into the tuner area and making that a little bit more flimsy. So I'll just trim that up. And I want to show you guys how I drill these holes out, because I made a little template. And it just makes sense to me is I made a little template out of a piece of wood. This is the template. I'll show it to you on another video. And these little eyelets here, the strings will go across and down through the eyelets, and that'll keep it down to where the strings are on the bottom of the tuner, so they don't drift higher. So that's what these are. These little holes are, I've measured these out. So I'll just put that template on this. After this is one of my finishing things. I'll put that on like that. I can drill all the holes. So that little template saves me a lot of time. It's already prefab. I just drilled 3 holes, and I just drilled a couple of 3 pilot holes for these. I don't want those to go very far in because I got to take these little eyelets and screw them in there like this. So I don't want those holes very deep, because I want those eyelets to catch on something when you're screwing them in. So this will be your final product, and I'll show you later on how I attach the tuners. I might even show you how I drill these out, just to kind of give you an idea. So, but that's pretty much how much I'm going to have extra up here, because I'm going to contour this off here. So that'll be my next little video, a part of the video. I'm going to show you that. But I'm going to go glue this now. Again, I just use regular wood glue. This piece is really, the grain really sticks up, and it's going to really grab the glue, and it's going to really adhere to this very easily. So, and I'll put it on my vise again. I don't need to show you guys that again, I don't think. So I'll just put it over there, put it on my level on there as a straight edge. Like I said, I'm trying to do this all on the budget. I'm not trying to spend a lot of money on fancy tools and things like that. I just want to make sure I can build these things. I like to keep them very rustic, but also playable. And I want to make sure they work right and last a long time. So that's why I'm taking a little bit more time on some of these things. And the neck is probably one of the more fashionable things. And I use spruce, and it's easier to work with. I prefer working with spruce because it drills better, it sands better. But I found out that over time, maybe the spruce neck will bow back a little bit because of all the tension on the springs. So that's why I switched to using oak, even though it's a pain, a little harder to deal with. You got to sand it more, and it's a little bit more difficult to work with. But I just find it works better for me, and I want my customers to be happy. And I'm building 3 more necks. I got 3 more to ship out, so I got to get really busy. You can see I've already pretty much got this one almost all set up. Here's the I've already got these pretty much pre-completed. This is where I'll have to work on this tail end here, and I'll have to trim off some of these pieces of wood, I think. But once I get this together, it'll be all nice. This is actually going to a guy in Nashville. I got one over here going to a guy in Kentucky, another guy going to one in Mississippi. So I got 3 in the workspace right now. So I got a lot of stuff, but I want to take my time and make sure it's done right. And what's interesting is these washboards. They were made by the same company. They're the Columbus Washboard Company out of Logan, Ohio, but their jig up there is not really precision set. I mean, the distances between all these parts may change from one board to another. So this may be 7 inches on this one. That one may be 7 1/8 or 7 1/16. So you got to be real careful about measuring everything together. That's why I got these measured out, and I pre-cut the. I like for these. I like for these to sit over that one board here, just to make it a little bit more contoured. But I'll show you that in another video. I'm gonna make one building one from scratch, from complete to the end. So I'll save that till later. But I just want to I want to do the neck finishing today. Like I said, I got 3 of these to send out, so I got to get them completed. So this is what the end of the neck's going to look like. And on the next video, I'm going to go ahead and show you on how I drill these out, just to kind of give you an idea. This jig works really well for me. I've made a bunch of these, and I'm happy with this one because it has the 3 holes here for these little eyelets, and I got these pretty well spaced apart. I put these about a 1/2 inch from the edge. From the edge to the center of the hole is about a 1/2 inch. That's how I do that. And I want to make sure they're spaced alike. Now, the tuners are either left or right tuners. So what I've done is if I get low on tuners, I'll just switch these and put these holes on this side. One hole. I'll just switch this jig to go like this. If I get low on my tuners, which they're getting kind of hard to get. Sometimes these tuners they're getting expensive. So I got a box full, but I want to make sure I can even them out. So I may switch these around from 2 on this side to 2 on this side. So I'll just do that later. But I'll take it up when I get this glued and dried and ready to set up, and I'll come back and show you guys how I drill those out. I use again from that guy down this place. This guy, he has MGB. He actually sells the exact size of the tuner hole you need. So if you drill it out with this drill bit, it drills out this hole to be exactly the size of a tuner. So it saves you a lot of time on messing around with the drill bits. And it works pretty well. This thing, it wasn't that expensive, so I just got it. Just drill 3 holes, you're done, instead of having to figure it out. So I'll put this back over here, but I'll talk to you guys later when I get ready to do the end of this. Okay, thanks. Well, I got this neck here ready to go. I just pulled it off my bench over there and had all looks like it's all attached. So what I was going to do is going to show you guys how I drill these out, these holes here, and I won't finish this out. I'll wait till I get the holes drilled and get the shape on this before I sand it down, a final sand, and then I'll put the heel on it. So what I did, I went ahead and got one neck already put in the vise here. So I'm going to show you now on these little eyelet holes. I'm just going to do a real simple, like that, just a real simple pilot hole. So give them something to grab hold of. And this bit is made for the tuner size. So all I get is just drill these out. Nothing magic about it. You just, I made this little device here, this little jig. So all I had to do is just, and that's it. That's pretty much it. I drilled out the tuning areas. I made a number of these jigs depending upon what I wanted to do. And these things are so easy to make, and I measured them out real well. About a ½ inch from the edge is where I centered the tuners. And I forget what, these are probably about a little over an inch from each other. So you can give the tuner backside some room in there. So these are pretty easy. I mean, this thing is great. Since I seem to be making a bunch of these necks, that's how I decided to make it easier, is just make a few of these jigs or patterns, and comes out real well. Now what I do to make it a little smoother on the back side, because when you're drilling this wood stuff, sometimes it's wood gets real brittle and it wants to crack or splinter. So the front looks really well. I mean, it looks really good. Here's my little pilot holes. But if you look on the back, you got a little bit of splintering. That's why I put this block of wood back here to, when you shoot through, the drill shoots through, it doesn't splinter down all the way. These will be covered up by the tuners, these little marks here. So that's no big deal. And these, sometimes it's a little tough to get these marks here centered in there for these eyelets, but that's where I put these on here. And so there it is. So I'm going to go back over there now and sand this down and give it some shape. Then I'll sand this down. I'll sand the edges down, get all this residual glue off here on both sides. Then I'll see if I got a heel to put on here. I'll have to look around. Okay, I'll get back to you in a minute after I get that sanded down. Should take a little bit of time. I actually had two I had two more necks to drill out, so I thought I'd show you that again. Again, that's just this is how it is after I get it out of this clamps, and it's all glued up. That's before I really finish it out. Again, I just put a block of wood on underneath the headstock, and the back here I just kind of secure it. So I already drilled out these little pilot holes. Let's take this drill. Well, I'm gonna flip this over. I want the two holes on the top. I want the two holes on the top, so I'm gonna flip these over. You know, if you get short on tuners, you can actually put two on the bottom and one on the top, because there's left and right tuners, as you guys probably know. I don't want to bore you to death with details, but if you get shy on these tuners, kind of run low on them, that's something you could do, is you could switch the configuration of these just to kind of make it a little more economical. So again, there's another one. Yeah, they get a little rough on the bottom. That's why that block of wood really helps. So I'll do one more, I guess. Hope you guys don't get bored watching that. Do one more. This one, I made this one a little bit longer. I may do something different on the top with it, so I'm going to make it a little bit longer. And drilling these pilot holes, I got to kind of set them up really carefully. make sure this is really centered up real well. Again, these are just pilot holes. I don't want to drill. I don't want to drill more than like an eighth. Eighth is too much. So I'm going to put this back on here. And okay. You know, even though I'm in my basement, it's pretty hot down here. I got to get more wood, I think, there. I got to make sure, there you go. I don't want to drill a hole into my bench top. It's already been done a few times, but I don't want to put any more holes in there than I have to. So again, I got to square this up real well, make sure it's all even. So. You know, the guys who build the cigar box guitars, they kind of go through the same thing. This is nothing unusual. So we'll just. There's another one. So I'm going to go back and sand those out. So I'll get back to you guys later and show you what it is. I got to turn my camera off here. Well, I got done sanding over there, and like I say, I bought a belt sander to kind of make my life a little bit easier, because this is oak and it's real hard to sand. And what I did is I put it on the grit side, the heavy grit side first, and tore this down right here. Then I went back with a finer grit and kind of evened it out and made it a little smoother. So that makes it a little easier for me. And like I said, I thought I was going to do most of these by hand, but this working with oak's a real hassle. It's really hard wood, and it just makes it a little more complicated. So I splurged a little bit, and so when I was over there, I actually went ahead and sanded down the edge of the back of these necks so they're not as sharp on there, so a little bit of a contour. If I had a miter, I could actually make these a little bit better, but I'm not going to spend the money. Those things are expensive, and I'm not really sure how they work. I don't want to get something that's going to be over my head. So I went ahead and I sanded down 4 of these heels or blocks for the bottom of the. So I did these as well. While I got the machine going, I just well do these too. These are kind of tricky, because you got to be careful, because that machine can get away from you if you're not careful. So I always wear gloves, and I make sure that I'm real careful about how I handle these and what I do with them, and so they don't get away from me. Luckily, I haven't really had any issues with that belt sander, but so I made 4 of these just because I had the extra wood, so I can kind of custom make it. I can go look at the grain of the wood, kind of match it to each neck of the guitar if I want. That's kind of what I do. So this one will probably look good on that one. Put it on here, kind of like that, or I'll put it like that, make it a little bit more, kind of like that. And so I try and match the wood with the neck to make it look how it looks. This one I'll probably use this one. I'll probably go like that, something like that. So there's 3 more necks, and I'll glue these on, and then I'll sand them down first, and I'll glue these on. Then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and sand it and stain it. Then I'll put some polyurethane on these necks. And that way it'll be nice and hold, and it'll make the hands slip a little bit better. So that's kind of where I am now. I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on here. So I hope I don't bore you to tears, but I'm just trying to show you how I work these. I mean, there's probably 100 different ways of how you can make these, but this is how I do it. So, okay, I'll see you soon. Well, I finished. I finished 4X here. What I did, I left 3 of these without the hanger bolt in there, but you know, I sanded them down. I finished sanding them, and I put some stain on them. Then I put the polyurethane on them too, so they came out pretty good, I think. What I'm going to do is you have to put in here a hanger bolt. These hanger bolts have a normal thread on one side for like a nut to screw onto, and the other side they have a like a screw. So you actually screw these into the wood, and then what hangs out here is this thread part that you can bolt your neck onto the cigar box or whatever you're connecting it to. And I use the hanger bolts. I get these at Home Depot. This is it's a 5/16 by 3 inch. They're not that expensive, but the 5/16 actually gives you more support than like the 1/4 inch one, and the 3 inch one I think gives you enough room to do how far you want to screw it into the wood. And how I do that is I actually measure from here to here, so and just make a halfway point. Just measure across here, measure from top to bottom, then your midpoint's going to be right about in the middle. So just measure. These are about 2 1/8 deep, 2 1/4 deep, and about 1.5 inches. So you just be 3/4 by 1 1/4, I believe. You just mark it right there. Now here's the trick I found on these. When you're drilling this hole, this oak is really tough. It's really hard wood. Start out with a small pilot hole, and then each time you drill out, just make the hole bigger and bigger. But here's the key: is don't make a small hole then try and screw this in, because it's not going to work. So you almost have to drill a hole almost big enough so this will slide in and out, but you don't. So make it about 2 sizes smaller than the diameter of this. And I usually use a mic like this, and I measure right here, and so this is like 0.28 inches. So I'll grab a bit that's like 0.26 inches and then drill the hole. If you don't, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. So what you need to do is after you drill the hole, and you put this in a vise, and it's going to screw in here. I use a ratchet wrench. It seems to work better when I do that. What I'll do is I'll take some glue, not a lot of glue, just put a little. Once you got your hole drilled in here, just put several drops of like Gorilla Glue, or even your wood glue or something like that. But don't overfill it, because if you do, it's going to squeeze out the pores in the wood. And when you're drilling this hole, make sure you don't drill out to the end. So I always put a mark on my drill bits on how deep I want them to go. So my bits, I just take a marker, measure down about 1.5 inches from here to here. Then I mark it on my drill bit, so I don't know I won't be drilling past that. So, but once you get ready to screw it in here, what I do is I'll get 2 nuts, and I'll tighten them up. I'll put one on, then I'll put the other one behind it. I'll tighten them together, so they're not going to go anywhere. That's where I can put this on here, and screw it into the wood. And what will happen is once you get that, you could even use a epoxy to set this in here, because you want this hanger bolt to be stuck in the wood really tight, because that's where glue helps. Because when you put this on your box, when you start screwing in this thing, the hanger bolt's going to go through here, you want to make sure that you got enough hangover to come out the other side, because you're going to put a couple washers on here and you got 2 nuts going on here as well. So that's where I always estimate the depth, about a quarter inch from the thread. So mine only going about maybe 1.5 inches. Anyway, so that's how you do that. But it's not that big of a deal, so don't panic. But you're gonna need a vise to stick this in, tighten it down, and be careful when you screw the hole down here. You want to make sure it's pretty even up. It's still not to the side or back and forth. So you're going to have to get like some sort of a bubble or a level and make sure it's up and down. If it's off just a few degrees, I wouldn't worry about it. Because you can make it happen with this, drilling this hole. You still have a little room for adjustment. That's pretty much how I do this. And I haven't put the tuners on here yet. What I'll do is I'll just put my little eyelets in here to hold the strings. I got to put my nut in here as well, no big deal. But the tuners, remember the tuners, you look at the neck on the back, the ones over here, this is the right tuners, this is the left tuner. So remember that if you have to order tuners, remember that's how it works. You look at the back of the neck, and whichever is to the right or left is what you have to get. So this takes 2 right, 1 left nut. Tuners, I mean. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to sit there and go through the gyrations of screwing these in, because it's kind of boring, and I think it's self-explanatory. So that's pretty much the end of my neck building series. This is how I do it. There's probably 1,000 different ways to do it. This is what works for me, since I have minimal amount of tools and a minimal amount of skills. But I'm making another one. I just did this one. I'm going to make a 4-string guitar, and that's why I made this a little bit longer, so I can accommodate for that. So I'll need 2 left and 2 right on this one. So this is going to be a 4-string. I've never made one before, but I think I can do it. Just a matter of drilling a couple more holes. So that's my next little project coming up. So that's pretty much it. Hanger bolt, get them at Home Depot. This is 5/16, 18 by 3 inches. So that works for me. Hanger bolts. Sometimes they call them anchor bolts. These are hanger bolts at Home Depot. I'm sure Lowe's has them. And you're going to need some nuts. I use the 5/16. These are stainless. I like the stainless over the zinc. They're a little tougher. They don't strip out as easy. A little bit more expensive, but they're worth it, because if you strip them out, it's not going to be any good. So I got my washers. I'll use these. I got some bigger ones that I bought. Can't find them right now, but I've got some bigger ones that I'm going to be using. Yeah, here they are. So I'll use this one of these, and one of these, and I'll put them in here once I get this hole screwed. So, you know, I've had people ask me how I drill these holes. What I do is I measure the center of this, the center between these 2 points here. I just take a pencil and mark it, because you're not going to see this once it's covered up with this neck. So, and then what I'll do is I'll measure, since it goes like that. So you just need to find the center point of this piece of wood right here. Then you're going to drill your hole, but your hole is going to be, you can measure from this piece of the wood here down. I think it's going to be like about an inch or so. I think it's 1.25 inches. You just mark your hole and drill it. And if you can always adjust this hole with a rat tail file if you need to make it more up or more down. So, but it's not that critical. And that's why I say you got those washers. You got 2 nuts on the back, and it's not a big deal. I'm going to do another video on a complete build, and I'm going to show you that one on there. So stay tuned. I got a few more videos coming up, and I appreciate you looking at this one. Thanks, I appreciate it.